Hello, guys. We are the Three Faces in the Dark podcast, and today I'll be the host, Big L here. And together with me, I have biased opinion. And unfortunately, Joseph would not be here because he has some urgent family's matters to attend to. So today it will just be a conversation between me and bias. We'll talk about some things about the new and upcoming league, PoE Affliction. And here we go. We'll start from here.
But if we do that, aren't we two faces in the dark now?
That we'll have to do for this week. But we don't change the brand just because Joseph is not here, right? So yeah, let's go into the topic of the day. For the first part, we will actually just do a generic look and patch notes analysis kind of. We just give a bit of our opinions on what we think of the patch notes. So patch notes for the Affiliation League has dropped 3.23. Then just for some TLDR, from all the content that was dropped a few days ago, the notable things that we saw is that Metamorph will no longer be in the game, and everything that is related to Metamorph, the Atlas trees, the Scarabs, is all being converted to Ultimatum. So, players who have played the Ultimatum League back in 3.14, yeah, this mechanic has. I have no idea why so many players like Ultimatum itself. I remember having played that league, I thought it was just an upgraded version of Ritual. I never saw that league as too special, but I guess the only the best thing that I got from that league was actually the ability to pause your gameplay, because in between stages you can actually just if you need a quick toilet break, you can just finish one stage and just put your game on hold, which is a a tech that we will never think that GG will bring back, but they happen to bring it back after 10 leaks of gameplay. So it's a very good welcome back to a very enjoyable feature that I like when I was playing Ultimatum League. Okay, then yeah, so with Metamorph rewards being with Metamorph content being out of the core content, all the unique drops has been made into the core drop pool, and I think the most notable drop that we are all interested in is actually Astro Projector. Is now a core drop now. So for players that like to play shockwave totems, it is a very good change. You don't actually have to spend big amounts of your starter currency to get the ring from the div cards, right? Then apart from that, I think they have also rebalanced some of the ultimatum challenges, like the I believe you can choose your own affliction, you can choose your own mods in the ultimatum itself, and I think they rebalanced that. So looking forward to see what they changed there. Yep. And what else in the patch notes have you taken a look at? Like, what is notable for people to take note from the patch notes?
Well, honestly, I don't really remember much other than tornado shot getting one projectile and toxic rain getting 20 point 20 more seconds to base duration, which I think is quite nice for either the hit, but mostly the totem one. I think is a huge difference.
Okay, so I think you are mentioning about the next big thing about the patch notes. So GG decided that they want to consolidate all of the gem altering effects from, like, from highs. You have the alternate quality gems. From lab, there are some help enchant that actually enhance your gameplay, or in some of the skills they actually make, they can actually double your damage kind of enchant. So what they do is they are actually removing all the lab enchants and all the highest alternative quality gems. So what they are giving out to us right now is actually transfigured gems. So apart from normal gems, gems can actually be transfigured now through the use of the lab mechanic. So uh, at the first lab itself, which is the level 33 lab from Act 3, you can actually start to get your own transfigured gems. And as far as what I've seen from all the trailers that has been dropped, all the Q&A that has been posted by the community to GGG and their respective answers, it seems like the transfigure transfigure option for the gem will be available as early as the first lap, and it shouldn't change all the way until the last lap. And from what we understand is that um, for the advanced lab keys, there's a gift of the goddess which give you another 6 use of the lab. Um, that one didn't change. So instead of 6, so the base chance for you to craft the gem now is 2, right? Then with that one 6, so you can actually have up to 9 users for the gift of the goddess key. As for there is also one significant change. So if you are interested in farming Grand Spectrum, Grand Spectrum no longer drops in the last room of the Izaro, the lab. You can actually get it from the silver chest and the labyrinth trove in the in the lab itself, just not the end room, right? And um, what else? I think they also disabled most of the cards that enable lab enchants. So if you happen to see that some of your favorite cards might be disabled for this league. Yeah. What else?
Right. If they're consolidating all the qualities, right, then what's gonna happen to Heist now?
So the highest blueprint, right? It used to they used to differentiate. Like two layouts will be gem blueprints. Two layouts will be the replica blueprints. Two the other two will be some other things. But now, from what I understand, is that the highest blueprints are all mixed up, and you just go down and do the blueprint, and it will give you a variety of rewards from replica uniques to currency. And this is from the trailer itself. I don't know if it's subjected to change. It seems like GG has the intention to buff up some of the currency, the end blueprint rewards. So if you like Heist, I think Heist is still viable as a farming um, mechanic. It's just that you won't get the big hits of quality gems that you might in the past, and you must be open to doing all kinds to actually potentially get all kinds of rewards, not just a certain kind. Like some people only like to farm replica, some people only like to farm the currency, some people only like to farm the gems. So gems are removed, and all the other 3 types of different blueprints are now mixed together. So um, it's really just maybe a more simplified version of what people could expect from Heist, and I think that's good. Yeah, I also like to mention that I saw this in the trailer, and I think that the replica, there are some new replica units that are coming out this late as well. And I really want to play around with the replica Covenant. I think that one is very interesting. So the original Covenant gives you a level 29 added Chaos Gem, whereas this one gives a 29 added Cold Gem. So the damage is definitely quite high, and if you compare it with a level 5 Awaken added Cold, I think the flat is double, but at the expense of a +1 to Cold Gem. So I think this will see play in a lot of the attack builds that don't scale too well with gem levels. Yeah. And at the same time, the Replica Covenant actually forces you to use mana. So it has both the component of to use the mana and ES, which isn't a problem because Replica Covenant actually has some flat like 300 plus ES. So you are not that um tied down to using just mana, and some people like in the past people like to split the cost between life and mana, but for this case you can actually use both ES and mana, and I believe if you do it with Eldritch Battery, you can mitigate all the cost to ES, but the number will be much higher. Yeah. So other than this, um, I think yeah, and one last thing. So most of the threshold jewels that changes some of the gem behaviors, those are gone as well. So you might have to take note if your build actually um uses some of threshold jewels. Yeah, that's just some of the things that I took note. Yeah, I think for later we'll talk about some of the transfigured gems, because as of today we as of the point of recording we have 4 pages from GG that they released the transfigured gem, and we will talk about some of the gems that we are looking at, some of the more extensive gems that we think will get play, some of the gems that we don't think will be good. We won't be talking about them unless at a later stage when there is some hype, or there's some broken mechanics with the gem, and then we might choose to talk about them when it's broken. Yeah.
Actually, like a true PoE player, I didn't read the part where the enemy Stone Jewel no longer has +1 to maximum number of summon golems. So I'm actually quite surprised about that change. I knew about the Dead Reckoning change. Um, Actually, it might be quite powerful depending on what the how the scaling will be like. But other than that, yeah.
I mean, just to add on, Dead Reckoning used to give you the Skelly Mages, and I believe in the third Transfigured Gem, they actually released the Skeletons. Skelly Mage is actually now a Transfigured Gem, so you can actually try your luck. Put your Skeleton Gems into lab, be it the first attempt or second, for the first try or second try, you should be able to get yours. And I believe they haven't say if there is any weighting towards any gem, transfigure gem. So I believe it's all weighted to be equal. So if your gem only has one type of transfigure gem, most likely you'll get it. But if there is two, then you are, yeah, it's pretty much 50-50.
So are you gonna run lab this league? Because it sounds like a pretty good league.
Are we going straight into what we will be starting? Because I think if your starter actually requires a transfigure gem, most of the time you would actually want to go into the first lap at least twice just to get your gem to be actually playable, because the first lap don't really take up a lot of time. At most it's gonna be like 10 minutes. Yeah. So if you can get to play your gem from the start for 10 minutes worth of flick start time, I think that's actually quite valuable.
That that's actually makes sense if you're already looking for one of the trans gems. But I think there might be something more important. I heard you like ascendancies. So how about an ascendancy with your ascendancy?
Yeah, so yeah, I was quite surprised when I saw the trailer video that GG is giving us um 3 additional ascendancy to choose from on top of your already ascended character. So I think the difference is um there is 3 different classes. One is the Magi, one is the Warlock, and one is the primers. Yeah, okay. Then um for the Magi, um the Magi comes with a node that gives you the tincture, so that you can actually use tincture to equip. Okay, so tincture is a thing that you can apply to your weapon to have it. You have to use your weapon to do damage for the tincture to work. So for people who are thinking to use tincture to play spell builds, let off that thought. Tincture is not for you, but you can actually use some other passive that is on. the Magi, for example, they have one node that gives you it's called Detect Evil. So within 120 range, you can actually see rare and unique enemies on your minimap as the icon. So they will be visible. And this is especially good if you are farming Sanctum. Because Sanctum is a very small place, and everything in Sanctum is actually most of the time the things that you really have to take note of. They are of rarity or unique monsters. So they will appear as icons on your minimap, right? And also, one of the more known notes on the Magi is the uh, Oath of the Magi. So if you don't have any socketed gems in your boots, you actually have 30 movement speed. I think that's the one that people are looking at. All the others, the opportunity cost is a bit high because you actually have to have empty sockets in your armor, your gloves, and your helm. So I won't be talking about those. The main thing to note is the 30 movement speed if you have no socketed gems in your boots, which I think is actually quite a good trade-off if you don't really need the four socket jewels. Yeah. Then as for the tinges, I've seen some really interesting one. They actually give you the ability to ignite with all damage and poison with all damage. And I think just from this alone, there's actually a lot of potential in the things that you can play. Um, so maybe we'll talk about this when we talk about the league starter builds that we had a few league starters that we will talk about later in this podcast. So we'll leave that for later. Okay. For the second of the three ascendancies is the warlock. I think the warlock, the identity is pretty much in the blood magic notes, sanguimancy. It's just that I think GG focused too much in the trailer. They are talking too much about the ability to raise the corpse as specters. I don't think people like to play too much micro management of specters to buy from the vendor, keep it in your storage, and then still use it on the boss. I think people just rather look at what the warlock has to offer other than that, and it's the blood magic version of the tree, and also the curse. Um, Especially for the curse, they have a penance mark which is very strong. It actually lets you summon when you curse the opponent with the penance mark, you can actually every hit on the penance mark monster will actually enable you to summon three phantasm. And these phantasm, they are actually spawn from the monster, so they are your enemies, but they do grant you Vow Souls and Flash Charges. So it's actually a very good thing to sustain. And from the latest Q&A, Penance Mark is actually scaled by Mark effect. So if you have enough Mark effect, you don't actually spawn three. You can actually spawn like maybe five of these phantasm to kill to actually sustain your on kill effect, your soul eater, your flash effect. Yeah, your Vow Souls is very strong. So I think people should take a look at the mark and the blood magic portion of these three. Generally, the race specters and the blood hunt where you actually consume the corpse for the bonus. That one may not be the big draw mm, mm, of this particular ascendancy. Okay. Then we'll go to the last one. This last ascendancy is your min maxing kind of ascendancy because the primaries actually lets you they have a very meme note, the one that you actually get more items from corpses after you war cry. I think this is very good if you are playing things like blight. So for blight chest, once you clear the blight, there's a lot of blight chests. So if you have this node enabled, you can actually use one war cry to open all the chests. So this is actually very good for characters that are doing blight. Other than that, I think most of the min maxers are looking to take the primaries because it has charm slots for you to equip to make your own mini ascendancies. So charms are things that you can buy from the vendor. in the wildwood forest. So what this charm does, it takes one prefix and suffix. The charms will come in one stats or two stats, and it will take one ascendancy point from any class and combine it with another. But so far, uh, all of these charms, right? They have three different kind of charms, and all these are based on attributes. So the in one you can only combine the in classes, which means that the Templar, Witch, and the Shadow, only these three classes with their ascendancy can appear on this particular. I think it's Lupine charm, and they have another one for Dex and the last one for Strength. So you cannot mix a Templar charm with a Ranger charm. That will never appear. So that one is just for you to recognize that some charms combination is not possible. You have to actually align with their stats. Yeah. And what else? What else should we talk about?
Well, actually, even though some charm combinations are not possible, there's like 3 charm slots, right? So you could just mix and match, and it might not be as much of a problem as we think.
But this is my own gearing philosophy. I think in PoE, a lot of times, if you are investing into one route of things, you want to go all the way as compared to a more well-rounded kind of thing. So I'm currently looking at maybe a more like if I'm playing a Templar class, I will look to actually get like the Pathfinder node, the one that actually gives you one flash charge per 3 seconds. If I can get 3 of that, I basically have a Pathfinder on my Templar, which is a very unique combination that shouldn't happen. Yeah, so and it actually brings back to the effect of a sanctified relic back in Sanctum League. It's a bit like that as well. So yeah, this is what I'm looking forward to min max. But I think for league starting, people will look more at the Magi and a Warlock. Warlock mainly for bossing and damage, but for the Magi is I think you can actually use the Magi for generic mapping.
Yeah, I'm super excited for the Magi. 30% more, 30% increased movement speed, not more.
Yeah. And the fact that they have another node where the flask next to the tincture can actually get like passively 3 flask gain for every hit, and also 30% increase effect, which is very strong if you are thinking about using it with Dying Sun, right? So if you are playing a Pathfinder build that scales off projectile, you would know that with a fully ascended Pathfinder, you have 20% flash effect just from your ascendancy. And with a tincture, you can actually get 3 projectile from Dying Sun straight away. So it's a kind of good play lah. You can play Dying Sun, you can play Taste of Hate, Progenesis. Who knows? There's so many kind of possibilities to play with the new ascendancies. All right. So um, I think that's all for the patch notes. I think we'll like to talk about the main bulk of what has been released so far. I think the main hype for this league is actually all the transfigured gems. And after we talk about the transfigured gems, we'll talk about some of the starters that we might start with. Currently, I have a few ideas, like maybe about 2 builds that I want to start with. But it really depends on one more day of the gems release for me to actually pin down on what I want to play. How about you, Bias? Have you thought of any builds that you want to play, or should we cover the gems first?
Well, for me, I took leave to play this league, so I really want to use a boring build for the first time in like a few leagues. Yeah, so I'll probably be running a Pathfinder Toxic Rain no matter what happens, and then I will try to rush out some currency, maybe get mage blood. Hopefully, that'll be hilarious. And then I'll figure out the builds on the second or the third week. Like GGG has really spoiled us this league. There's enough changes in the skills gems that like I can't even be bothered to bait people because like there's bait everywhere. Like even Palsteron is trying to bait people with caustic, the poison caustic arrow, which is part of the trans gems that we might be talking about later. But everybody is getting baited. Like I think even this is getting baited by some random shit also. Everyone's baited this league.
I mean, you can't really say it's baiting because the numbers are out. I think people have their own ideas on what they want to play. It's just that at the same time they also want to take a look at what streamers have to say about the new gems. And eh, I mean, I've seen a few of the builds that people are recommending these past few days. I wouldn't say that all of them is bad, but some of them is a bit precarious to say anything good about it because some of the gems might not be available, and we wouldn't know. Like I say just now, that some gems might have some. We don't know if GG will implement waiting to gems because previously they actually have waiting for the alternative gems. So we wouldn't know if your gem that you want to play has 2 or 3 more transfigured version. It will be so much harder to get your gem at the first lap straight away. Like if your gem has 2 versions, let's be honest, I think at most you run 3 times if you are really unlucky for the first 2 times, right? And that wouldn't take too much time from you if you can get your gem to play for the get go. So I'm currently looking. Okay, so now since we let's drop a bit of what we want to play. So Bias is looking to play Toxic Rain Pathfinder. Currently, I'm looking at the numbers and I really like Penance Brand. So I'll be league starting with a Templar. As usual, I always like to play an Inquisitor for start. And I actually want to play Penance Brand because it is being revamped for this league. It's made so much more simpler. It no longer has it used to have like 0.5 activation rate, which is not exactly nice because it has to reach 20 energy before it can do the big explosion, which is what most Penance Brand wants to do anyway. But along the way, the old Penance Brand actually deals damage with some small pulse. But they remove all the pulse mechanics. Now it's purely just 0.1 activation rate, and Penance Brand actually explodes at 20 as well. But the flat damage that the gem has is so much higher. It's 2,500 at level 20, 2,500 lower end to 3,800, which is very high. Although this number cannot beat the old Penance Brand at max stack, but now this gem is so easy to play that I think it makes sense. And if you think about it, they even buffed the radius to 2.8 meters, which is very good, which is actually quite big for an explosion. So I'm looking to test out Penance Brand, and if Penance Brand don't work as well as I like it to be, I'll transition my Inquisitor into a trap build, and most likely I'll be trying out. I will be playing Ice Trap first, and eventually, if I have more gear, I will play Explosive Trap if I want to boss. But that is really on hold. I really want to try out Penance Brand first.
Right. There's actually something interesting in the patch notes. We have Divine Ire being changed and made simpler also. I think Divine Ire hit based totems looks good. I think Palsteron did the math already. I think it was Palsteron at least. Um, the math looks pretty good for non-ignite and hit base. I guess if Tetian Tail says anything, you should just listen to him because he's the spell totem guy. But Divine Ire totems hit base looks pretty good. And we also missed another change, Righteous Fire. Righteous Fire got changed. Its base damage scaling got removed, and it scales off your maximum life and maximum energy shield from 30% to 70% now, which means that higher end RF builds which scale life or energy shield uh, would be way more stronger compared to before.
Yeah, I was thinking actually we could go down the alphabetical order to talk about some of the gems. But okay, yeah, the RF change is certainly one of the biggest change since it was buff, because I remember playing the old school RF where it only has 35% of your life and ES as scaling for damage. Then along the way, GG thought it was a good idea to give RF base damage, and I think that was also the time where it started to become a bit more popular, and people start to lick start RF, which is unheard of when you play old school RF. Um, there is probably just one or two people playing old school RF right out from the get go, and Pox is probably just one of them. So, with the new flat scaling of RF, I think a lot of people went to play RF, and it became like a meta build for at least the past 1 year, 1 or 2 years. So, um, I can't say that I like this change, but I like this fresh reset of the RF meta, because not only they took away the flat scaling which made RF start so comfortable, they actually incentivized the end of the top end of how RF builds is going to be played in the future. So I guess this is a good change. I appreciate meta shakeup every now and then, and this league happens to be, I think, the biggest meta shakeup ever since they nerf gems power in 3.15. Yeah. So Bias, should we start talking about the transfigured gems?
Sure, why not? You want to talk about the animated guardians?
Okay, I think we can go down the alphabetical order, or we can go by colors as well. Okay, honestly, when I mouse over anything related to minions, I actually just skip it because I'm not a minions fan. So maybe you can actually tell us more about some of the minion buff, some of the interesting things that we have to take note, because I'm not a minion guy.
Well, sadly, I only took a very short look at them. Um, the inspiring versions of Absolution and Dominating Blow seems to be the same as the versions from Crucible League. Um, I don't have high hopes of this because we had these two versions of the spells for like an entire league already, and like nothing insane came out of it. Maybe something different will come out. One thing that's really interesting is that Animate Guardian now has Smite, and I read a Reddit post where there used to be some effects that only affected skills, and not attacks, which and this gem allows the Animated Guardian to use a skill, which is Smite. So this actually allows new interactions for the Animate Guardian. Yeah. Other than that, honestly speaking, like I didn't really look much into the minion gems either. Yeah. Which one? Oh, the animated weapon or ranged arms. I've never touched animated weapon in my life. It's always so it's always so clunky back then. One difference, I'm not sure if it will matter to anybody listening to this, but ethereal knives no longer drops lingering blades. I've read a few complaints on Reddit that like it makes it harder to get animate weapon build going. But I like the simplification of it. So um it might be addressed in a future patch, but I like the fact that we are simplifying the gems, such as the removal of the ability to be cast on Frostbolt for Cyclone. No, not Cyclone. Vortex and Ice Nova. But we have seen the gems. The same ability is on the trans gems, and I think it makes it a lot easier for new players to understand what's going on.
Okay, just a correction for the EK. But this is very new info, and I think buyers haven't looked at the list. The latest transfigure gems from Part 4 actually has the EK that drops the knives. But I still think that they kind of buff that particular reason to drop knife, because back in the days, EK only dropped 1/3 of the knife that was shot out. But the current gems, if you take a look at the closest one, it drops everything. So ethereal knives of lingering blades actually drop 10 knives per cast. And if you use it together with like something like a Arcanist brand, some form of if you kind of automate this interaction, you can actually have a permanent sustain of blades. And that just means that some of these animated weapon builds might have to go to the lab more than the other builds, because they actually have to have so many different versions of transfigured gems. Yeah, so if you are considering to play animate weapon, just take note that if you're looking at all these transfigured gems, you might need to run the labyrinth more than the other builds. And to each of its own, I don't think that it's a bad thing, because you can get to play the fun things from the start. But if you are looking to rush the content, we wouldn't recommend you to do so many laps in the beginning, because the more you do, you may and the thing is, you may not get what you want as well. So it will always be a time versus efficiency thing. Would it be better for you to just buy the gem straight up? Yeah. And let's take a look at some of the more notable gems that we have looked at. Okay, like I say, I don't really play the minion play style, but I think that the blink arrow mirror arrow build is actually quite interesting, because they actually give you the rain of rain of rain of arrows, and the prismatic version actually give you elemental heat, which is quite strong, to be honest. I'm still thinking what kind of builds can actually abuse blink arrow. So I'm really looking forward to what PoE Reddit has to showcase, maybe after the second or third week, when people actually have a bit of currency to get some builds going, because there's just so many variety. I think we can only afford to play a few, and then we will live vicariously through the other builds from other content creators. I like to talk about the blade trap of great swords. I think that's a very interesting thing. Um, so I have always been a fan of traps, as you guys have already known if you have been listening to this podcast. I'm a trap enthusiast, and blade trap of great swords is the first of its kind where you can actually use two-handed swords. You can only use two-handed swords, and just to remind all of you all that Rakiata Dance is a core drop now. So you can actually use great blade trap of great swords with Rakiata Dance. Okay. And the funny thing about this trap is that it actually is a cooldown trap. So it makes the blade trap into like a uber trap. So I'm not sure about the viability of making a cooldown trap, but I think this is for balance purposes, because can't have a skill do too much damage. So looking to try blade trap of great swords, but I wouldn't be looking just at the numbers. I don't think it will be amazing, but it will be certainly quite a pleaser to the eye, because like I say, Rakiata Dance is effectively one of the best looking swords in the game. And if you put it onto a blade trap and it swings like that, it should be quite glorious on the screen. So I'm looking to play that. There's also another one. There's this blade blast of dagger detonation. This is also one of the things that we are looking at. It actually has a very big multiplier to the added spell damage equals to the dagger that you are currently using. And currently, most of the people will just think of Valconers, or even White Wind. You can actually make use of all the flat damage you can get on the dagger and have it add to your spell, which I think this is a COC kind of um, spell. So looking forward to see what people can do with Blade Blast of Dagger Detonation and what kind of damage, what kind of monster that people can create with this spell. And I think it's going to be one of the banger of the league if you manage to do COC with this spell. Right. Then any more okay, I know buyers have always want to talk about this. Yeah, please.
Right. So with the added scaling to life for Righteous Fire, we also now have Burning Arrow of Vigor, which deals added fire damage to 24% of your maximum life. And I think life stacking might be very interesting this league, especially when you take into account the new ascendancy, the Warlock. The Warlock has a node that gives you life according to the amount of energy shield you have on your body armor. Your equipped armor, yeah. So it depends if this life is base life or added life. If it's base life, it might be the best thing since sliced bread. If it's added life, it might still be very strong, but it won't be nearly as broken as if it was base life.
Yeah. So definitely will be very interesting because it totally changes how you gear for Burning Arrow. Because now you purely use your life as the added damage for your Burning Arrow. So I think that's very strong. Even for hit base, I think that's quite strong as well. So I think most of the time people would just think of to use it to ignite, right? Um, since I'm a trap enthusiast, I will talk about traps for the next few things. I'd like to talk about explosive trap. Um, explosive trap of magnitude is one that they cut your trap throwing speed by 30% less, but it actually gives you one big explosion. And they also make the damage so much higher than the normal explosive trap at the expense that you lose all the smaller explosions, which is fine because this explosive trap is the first time explosive trap actually doesn't have um, inherent conversion. So it's a pure physical trap that deals one big explosion. So you can see where this is going. This is actually exactly the build that you want to use to play explosive trap of magnitude with ignite on an elementalist, because you can actually just convert most of your hits. You just need the damage of your final hit to be just a bit tilted towards fire, and you'll get maximum benefit from Shaper of Flames. So this is something to look out for. And I think even if you don't know what to league start with, I think you can always play like a generic league start. You can just play Elementalist. You can play Magma Orb into Armageddon Brand. Run the first lap for 2 times. Get explosive trap of magnitude, and you can play the build from the get go. It's going to be very strong. But that is depending on whether you like to play traps, right? Explosive trap also have another one. This one is a bit more controversial because it actually makes your secondary explosion radius bigger than the first explosion radius. So what it does is it actually allows you to do more AOE clearing, but the single target is not as good as the original gem. So I can see where they are going. This is a gem swap kind of gem that you want to have in an explosive trap build. So some people might run this together with their normal explosive trap. And I think this is very good for players that want to play one skill forever. They just need to do a gem swap. All right. Just today, they actually released the alternative gem for lightning trap and ice trap. I want to talk about the ice trap one first. The ice trap. So the ice trap of hollowness, they actually remove the tertiary explosion, but they give a bigger cold damage, and the trap also lasts half it it lasts 2 seconds instead of 4. So what that means is the trap will trigger faster, assuming you use sunblast. So from a 1 second, from a perfect roll sunblast, a normal ice trap will trigger at 1 second, but with the same perfect sunblast, you can actually explode this ice trap of hollowness in 0.5 seconds, which is as good as instant. The moment you throw the trap down, it instantly trigger. So I think this is very strong for players that want to play ice trap. Then for lightning trap, they actually reduce the number of projectile that you can fire from the trap itself, but now it pierces all targets, which is a very big QL. And the fact that it has 2 chains when it hits a terrain. So what lightning trap lightning trap of sparking actually has a lot of potential if you are in an enclosed area.
Does dying sun affect traps?
Yeah, so dying sun actually affects all projectile skills because and dying sun also has another effect, which is you can actually, during the flash effect, you not only get the 2 projectile, you also get increased AoE. I don't think that one makes a lot of sense for lightning trap, but yes, lightning trap do benefit from dying sun. Yeah, so in a very small arena like the Maven, if you look at lightning trap of sparking, you actually don't even need Nimis to actually do big damage, because this thing can chain off the end of the chain at the end of the corners of the arena. So this is actually very strong. Okay. And also today they also released a seismic trap of swells. This thing is crazy because, right, you actually don't need to scale trap throwing speed. Traditional seismic trap actually wants to scale both increase cooldown recovery and trap throwing speed, because increased cooldown recovery will let your amount of seismic trap to replenish before the cooldowns recover, and also at the same time, increased throw speed actually increases the amount of wave that the trap will pump out. But now, with this particular transfigured gem, seismic trap of cells, the trap will always release 4 wave and last 4 seconds. And it allows 6 users, which is much more than what you can get on the normal seismic trap, which is 3 for default, and with the notable at the shadow area, you have another +1. So it's a 4 users versus now you can have 7 users. I think seismic trap of cells is a lot of potential for all kinds of build, conversion or even poison. I think people can look to play seismic trap this league again, and the normal version is already strong, but the alternative version is another playstyle where you just don't scale throw speed, and you might still want to scale a bit of the cooldown reduction, but you wouldn't need 2 because it has about 7 users for your traps. Yeah, and that's my summary for the current traps that I see. Even though I like to play traps, I still like to play safe. I want to play Penance Brand first, and eventually, when I see some of the trap gems are being sold cheap, I'll buy them to try out. Yep.
Well, Penance Brand is a rework skill, right? Yeah. So that's not actually that safe.
I mean, I'll just put my faith in GGG. The last time they reworked some form of brand, like, I don't know if you guys remember, but when they introduced Arcanist brand was actually broken with Wave of Conviction. Although I don't think it's game breaking enough for the new rework Penance brand, but I think the effect is about the same, because like I explained to buyers just now, we were having a chat about what we want to play, right? So I mentioned Penance brand, and he was quite surprised, and I was like, okay, so the new Penance brand actually activates every 0.1 second. So without any cast speed, at 20 stacks, one single brand will need 2 seconds to activate. But who would play brands without room binder? So normally brands build will always play room binder, and you will have two brands. So two brands will activate the explosion at 20 stacks in 1 second. That is without any form of cast speed scaling or brand activation frequency scaling. So if you add on more, I think Penance Brand is going to be almost as good as a self cast normal spell. Yeah, and that's what I'm going with. Yep. And actually today the two transfigured gems pages that they released, there's also another one where Soul Ren becomes a hit based build. I think that one is very strong. Um yeah. Soul Ren of, I think it's Soul Ren of um Reaping. Yes, Soul Ren of Reaping, where it doesn't deal any dot damage, it's just a pure hit damage. And as usual, people know that Soul Ren actually is a very hard hitting skill. Then now they actually took the dot damage away and give you very high crit chance and 400% effectiveness of damage. Even though the cast time is a lot, so I think Soul Ren of Reaping would be a COC kind of skill. So people who have been playing Forbidden Rite would can change to Soul Ren and play. It's just that Soul Ren is a bit harder to scale with projectile count. Yep.
Right. There's also one that is a little bit spicy, which is the Blight of Contagion that you pointed out when we first saw it. Blight of Contagion actually um wait, it casts Contagion when channeled, and it also it allows the Blight debuff to be spread by Contagion. Yeah. And I think that's quite interesting because Blight stacks, how many times does Black? Is it 20? It says 5. Yeah. So it actually stacks like 3000 max base chaos damage per second. That's um that's quite impressive. Definitely more than ED, which is very sad.
Wait. But to be fair, we haven't seen them release ED as a transfigure gem. So there will still be hope. I mean, we are not talking copium, right? Because I think even the current RF players are also looking forward to the transfigured RF gems. I think it's only fair for us to say that if GG haven't shown us the transfigure gems for Essence Drain, maybe it will be coming. Maybe yeah, maybe there will be something there that we can hope for if you are playing, if you like to play Essence Drain Contagion kind of build. But Blight of Contagion is definitely one of the stronger things because Blight has always been a very strong chaos skill. It's just that the inability for you to spread the debuff was quite the uh hampering the skills clear ability, and most of the time people use Blight for bossing anyway. So if you can just use Blight and Contagion, I think that's how people would like to play in the future because Blight actually has damage. Um People will still play ED but as a pseudo 5 link where they put in a glove or something with the essence of the delirium glove. You can actually have decent occasional ED damage for bossing, but if not, I think people would most likely play around with Contagion with and Blight.
Yeah. Actually, if I remember correctly, Crackling Lance also had quite a few changes. That might be another skill to look out for in the next few weeks. I'm not gonna touch it.
I think for all the other spells that requires that plays as self cast, we'll probably see these self cast builds come up maybe after the first month when people actually start to have money to play self cast like maybe Mage Blood, like they have a lot of cast speed kind of gear to actually play. If not, the first few weeks is going to be a lot of the poison builds, ignite builds, builds that generally do good on a budget and then it's only after the first month where people start to have enough money to play the more ridiculous builds that requires more money. Yep. I think you mentioned about Palsteron's caustic arrow of poison. I think that one is a viable build as well. It's just that some of the items that are that the build use actually quite contended with is quite contested with some of the other builds. I remember him using Covenant, and the normal Covenant is always being snatched up by the Summer Raging Spirits necromancers. So you'll have to fight the beat up wall. You have to outbeat them, and maybe to get the chest that to even start playing the build, because the build will only feel good once you have enough flat damage, and just by the gem itself the damage is not really enough. But I like that they give the gem actually the chance to poison, which is hard to come by. We haven't seen the Herald of Agony, the transfigured gems, but I'm hoping that they will release it maybe by tomorrow. Yeah. So any more thing you wanna add on? Like what kind of transfigured gems are you also maybe one final look? Any more notable ones that you want to talk about? I mean, I've shared some of my notable ones, especially the traps. Okay. There is a Firestorm of Meteors. I think that one is very, 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 very interesting as well, because now you don't have to deal with Firestorm being a duration spell. It's just a big meteor coming down, and I think the flat damage from Firestorm of Meteors can actually be quite high for people to actually play as you want to play as poison, you want to play as ignite. I think this is fine. It's very strong. There's also another thing that I saw that I think it's quite good. Was it? No, no. Yeah. They came out with some ball lightning. The that one was a bit of a letdown because it has a cooldown. The ball lightning was static. Yeah, ball lightning was static. It has a cooldown now, so I'm not sure if people would want to play a spell with cooldown. Um, if not, people were looking to preload ball lightning lah. But let's be honest, I don't think GG will let you preload stuff unless you're playing traps.
It looks like totems with extra steps. I would rather play totem.
No, but totems will die. This thing don't.
Yeah, well, with a bit of totem HP, most of the time that's not a problem.
All right. I also want to talk about some Spectral Shoe Throw, and Shoe Crush. So Spectral Shoe Throw or Shattering actually has another scaling which I thought was very nice. Other than the normal the physical damage that you get, but Spectral Shoe or Shattering actually scales cold now, which can be bad if you are scaling conversion to cold. But I like that they give it cold damage based on evasion, because almost every Spectral Shoe Throw that I knew of back in Crucible League were using the Emperor's Vigilance, and because the ES scaling was a bit broken. But yeah, I like how they are making you think about crafting a high evasion base to play cold Spectral Shoe Throw. At the same time, Spectral Shoe Crush, Shoe Crush of the Chieftain actually now gives you flat fire damage from your armor. So I remember seeing shields that went up to like 3,000 to 4,000 armor. So this can actually also be very interesting for you to play as a second character of the league kind of build, because you actually have to get some currency to scale from there. Yeah, very, very interesting takes on some of the transfigured gems. Would love to see more come out, and I believe that's about it. We haven't seen really anything. Some gems were quite of a letdown. We will talk about the gems that were not um too much to us. Oh yeah, I also want to talk about the steel skills. So apparently steel skills now don't actually require you to play steel shards, the core of steel. So I thought that was quite nice. But the current transfigured gems of splitting steel actually take back they actually reintroduced the core of steel mechanic. So I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's to allow people who like core of steel to play core of steel. But as someone who likes simplification of skills, I think this is I won't be touching this. And I think that the normal shattering steel and splitting steel is how the skill should be played. You shouldn't be too clunky to play skills like shattering steels.
Well, I like the way GGG is handling this. So it's no secret that PoE has a lot of complicated and noob trap skills. So by separating the utility of the skills, it makes it easier for new players to look at a gem and say like, oh, I like this skill, it looks cool, I'm gonna try it. And not be too worried about like the secondary effects, like, oh, I can cast Vortex on Frostbolts. Then usually what they used to do was spell slinger it. So it's probably way more complicated, and with this separation, GGG can probably give some power back to the base level of the skills and make them less of a noob trap. But that's my opinion on this.
Yeah, and I think the way that they are doing transfigure gem actually makes it easier for them to balance individual skill gems. Because in the past, if they were to balance one gem, they are maybe balancing for one of the alternative quality, but at the same time, because one of them is out of the range, they have to nerf it down. It makes all the other version of the skill bad. So for Transfigure Gem, they are actually splitting all the skills up so that they can balance it eventually individually when they need to when one of the skill go out of the acceptable range. Like if it's too strong, they'll nerf the numbers down. And I think that is the way that it should be played, lah, right? Um, any more gems that you want to cover?
Well, I actually just saw Race Spectre of Transience. 55% more minion movement speed and 1,000% increased critical strike chance. Sounds interesting, actually. Oh, and one thing that I saw, right? This is just for the memes. This is not actually useful. But they have this summon flame golem of the meteor now. So like when summon, the flame golem attacks by falling from the sky, dealing fire damage. If you have this with the elementalist, you might have a new auto bomber, which will be hilarious.
Oh, but the summon golem actually don't die from the impact. So
Right.
it comes down and then it still can cast its skill. So I mean it will be interesting, but the maximum is just one golem.
No, you still have the ascendancy. The ascendancies will still give you maximum two summon golems, and then you also have one from the passive tree. Right, so you still have like four summon golems compared to the other alternative one which we were just given. It gives you three maximum summon golems. That one is probably quite strong actually. So but this is if you if you want to use the elementalist for this, is probably for the memes, right? The warlock gives you a lot of methods to kill your golems now, and also you if you want to stick it with like more of mischief. But this is going way too far already, just for me.
I mean, more of mischief, to be honest, is a very decent league starter because it is a very budget build for big damage, but it is a lot of buttons to press. So, I mean, if people enjoy that kind of playstyle for the first few days at least, I think it's fine. But to play for like you want to play the build for a league, I wouldn't say yes to that. I think it's a bit too strenuous to a normal PoE player hands. Um, Yep, I think that's about it. Any more non-notable gems that we want to talk about? I think most of the other gems we'll just have to talk about it when we actually have a play on the new league, and when Joseph join us back for the next round. We'll each chime in on what we saw, what we are playing, and what we will recommend people to try out this league, because I believe there's a lot of things to try out this league.
Oh, for anybody who's interested, I think Joseph is also starting Pathfinder Toxic Rain until he figures something out as well.
Yeah, he did mention that he will be starting Pathfinder TR for now. I think there won't be any big changes, but I see that he's looking to play the artillery ballista poison, but that is really also dependent on how available tinges are, especially the one that enables poison, right? All right, so yep.
Right. So before we end, if anybody's still listening, I will be streaming on the Three Faces in the Dark YouTube channel. Hopefully we'll get it running, and hopefully I don't leak and dox myself and like destroy myself on the internet.
No, I think it'll be fine. We will be there in spiritual support for buyers. Um, and who knows? Maybe you will see us in party play maybe for the first few days if we are sharing maps and stuff. Yeah, but we'll be looking forward to actually league start on Saturday itself. The thing is that we won't be able to you will maybe you can see bias because he actually took some off days to play, and you might be able to see his whole character development arc. Then you wouldn't be able to see uh the character progression for Joseph and mine, but it should be quite similar to what the pace is should be quite similar to what bias has. So um after that, I think we will meet up again and talk about PoE maybe in the next week or the week after next, um, to have a more conclusive first thoughts on the league itself and what some of our recommendations are, at least for we will want to talk about the new ascendancies, because as of now is everything is nice on the paper, but who knows, maybe the NPC will be too rare for us to do a switch. If you choose your first one, if you choose Magi for the first one, you may not be able to get your chumps. We won't know the mechanics that go behind the current affliction league, right? So we'll give our thoughts in the next podcast. For this current podcast, we'll be uploading within the day or by tomorrow, and by then there will be new info gems out for us to even talk about. But unfortunately, we'll only cover that in the next episode. So we hope that you guys will stay with us for the next episode as well. And this is Big L signing out.
This is Bias. Bye.